Year 4, welcome back to your art lesson. This is going to be the second half of your drawing of Greta Thunberg from last week that we started when we were thinking about Stone G, the street artist. So, last week you did some tonal work like this, and you practiced your tonal scale, you practiced doing some tonal shapes, and you practiced your sketching. So, I would have this in front of you so you can remember what your tonal scale was, so I'm going to keep that. You're also going to need your outline that you started last week, as you're going to be finishing those off today. So I'm going to need your same reference picture that you had last week. You're going to need a ruler. You will possibly need a rubber as well if you've got one. You will need a pencil, and I've got two just in case one of mine goes a bit blunt. It means I've got a second one that I can use as well. So, I'm just getting my reference picture ready. So, for those of you who did the same picture as me last week, this is a reference picture that I'm using. So, I'm going to have that in front of me the whole time. Now, the first thing I've got to think about is where her eyes are going to be, and this is when we're going to start to think about proportions. So, on a person's face, the top of their eyes should be in line with the top of their ears. So if I go onto my picture of Greta and I find the top of her ear, I'm going to draw a really faint line just through the middle there. Faint enough for me to see it, but faint enough also for me to rub out so it doesn't ruin the drawing. I'm then going to do another one sort of to the mid-bottom of the ear. And the line at the bottom of the ear is going to be where the bottom of your nose is. As if you look at your face in the mirror, your nose lines up with the bottom of your ears. So we should now have one line, mine's very faint so you can't really see it, one line going across from the top of the ear to ear, and one line going from the bottom of ear to ear. I've just thrown my hair up quickly to talk to you about proportions. So the reason why I'm asking you to draw lines on your artwork is because if you look at a person's face, it is almost in proportion. So if we look at the top of my ear, which is here, and I hold a ruler across, you can see that the bottom of my eyebrow and the top of my eye are lining up with my ears. You can do that on your art. If we look at the bottom of my nose, we can see that the bottom of my nose lines up with the bottom of my ears. So the bottom of your nose on your drawing should match up to the bottom of your ear. I'm then going to start sketching in her face. And hear me say sketch rather than draw, because we're going to lightly sketch, so if we make a mistake we can rub it out. So I'm going to start with her eyes, and I'm going to go to my line, and I know that the bottom of her eye should be on that line. So I'm going to sketch her eyes in. Making sure that they have got the right proportions. And remember that your eyes aren't a perfect circle, your eyes taper in at each end, meaning that they get thinner off to the side of each part of your eye. One way to make sure that your face is near enough symmetrical is to draw a very faint line down the middle of the face. It doesn't have to be perfectly down the middle because nobody has a perfectly symmetrical face. So I'm now going to sketch in her other eye, roughly trying to match them up. But like I said, it may not be exact. So my drawing now has two eyes. I'm now going to go in with her nose. So your nose, if you look at your own face, it starts from the corner of your eyebrow. So I'm going to draw a very, very faint line down and round. And I'm going to do the same on the other side, because your eyebrow and the start of your nose should really try and link together, as it's all part of the same bone on your face. So I'm just bringing that down and round. I'm then going to do her nostrils. Remember, it won't be exactly symmetrical because nobody's face is exactly symmetrical. And remember, you can go back over your drawing a few times to make your lines a bit darker. So mine's now got a nose shape on there as well. And I'm going to go in with her lips. So on that line we drew for her mouth, I'm going to do a very thin line, because my reference picture, she's got a very thin top lip. And then I'm going to do the bottom half of her mouth. And remember to try and make your drawing dark enough for you to be able to see where you are working. And then you can add some of her expression in, along with the line that actually makes up her mouth. So, I would like you to first off go in and sketch in the entirety of her face. Also, if she's got a plait in the picture that you're looking at, just like mine, go in and draw your plait in. Okay, once you've got your main details of her face in, this is now when you're going to go in and start adding some of that tone. So, if you take a look at your picture of Greta, have a look at your reference picture and see where most of the light is coming from. So, if we look at my picture of Greta, we can see the light is shining on her face from this side. So on my drawing, I'm going to be looking at this side as being where all the light is. So I know that all my shadows are going to be off the other side. So this is where we can start going in with our pencil on its side for shading. And we can start going in. And remember, you're not colouring, you're shading. So pushing harder with your pencil to get some of that shadowing off. And remember, the lighter you push, the lighter your lines will be. But as you can see on my drawing now, I've got a little bit of shadow coming off the side of her nose, just as it would in the picture. And normally on a person, the darkest point of their face will be where their eyebrow bone meets their eye. And probably on a lot of the pictures you have of Greta, that'll be where it is the darkest too. You'll also need to go into her eyebrows. So for her eyebrows, you can very lightly flick your pencil up and it will give it some sort of brow stroke. And you can do some light ones at first, then go in with slightly harder ones. And it'll make it look more hair-like rather than you going in and colouring them in. So, I'd like you to go in, looking at your picture of Greta, and start adding in the shadows where there's shadows. So you might have a shadow under her chin going down into her neck. Have a look at where that is. And remember, when you're adding in shade, you hold your pencil off to the side so that you can get darker and gradually start pushing lighter and lighter. So the other things that we need to think about in our drawing is her hair strokes. So to make your hair flick out more rather than looking like a straight line, if you get your pencil on its side and just gently flick, but you hold the pencil at the end of it, not near here, otherwise it's very, very controlled. If you hold it at the end of it and flick outwards, you can get hair-like strokes that are very, very thin. And as long as you curve the pencil exactly how you want it, you can get quite realistic looking hair strokes. And with her plait, I can do the same thing with the hair flicks. I can flick them into the shape that I've drawn of her plait. So, depending on how you've drawn your plait will depend on how you do your hair strokes. But in her plait on my picture, it isn't a pristine and perfect plait. She has got the odd hair coming out, so don't feel that your drawing of her has to look perfect. Okay, once you're happy with your drawing, then you can go in with your rubber and rub out those gentle and very faint lines that you made with your ruler in order to get your proportions correct. So remember that her top and her neck won't be the same colour, so make sure that you have gone in and added some shading there. I'm just going to go back in over her eyebrows one more time. I've lightly shaded over her skin on my one, so I could get in those lighter patches of her skin as well. So above her eyebrow is slightly brighter, so I've left that, but gently just shaded over her whole skin. Just a really light wash, so I can then go in and take away some of that light, making it look brighter. Make sure that with the shades that you keep building it up, go in, press harder and harder each time, especially with the hair. Try and get it as dark as you can, because her hair is very dark. She's got very dark brown hair. You don't want all of your colours to merge together. Go in, add those loose strands of hair that she might have. She does have quite a stern expression on her face in my one, so I'm making sure that I've got that sterner expression. Okay, if you feel like you've finished but you haven't got enough tone on it, or your tone is a bit streaky, you can see your pencil lines, remember you can go in with your finger and just very gently in a circle you can rub it and blend it in, and it will start to merge all of those pencil lines together and make it look a bit softer. Doing that might also make it easier for you to go in and add another darker layer. So once you've blended one layer, you can go in and add in another layer of your pencil to really just deepen it up. And you can do that all over her face, especially with her skin. If you rub in any shading that you've done on her skin, it will make it look softer rather than having harsh pencil lines. Okay, once you think you've done all of the tonal stuff you can, so I've been looking at my scale the whole time and looking at how dark I can get it to go on the scale. My paper is quite shiny, so it is hard for me to get it to go as deep as possible, but if you're working on newspaper, you should be able to get your drawing deeper than mine. You are going to go in with a pencil and you're going to research a quote that Greta Thunberg has done, because Stone G used to use quotes and things in his art, especially when he was looking at famous musicians or famous actors. He used quotes from their film. I'm going to go in. You can almost graffitify it a little bit. Make it a bit sketchy, make it very you. It doesn't need to be the neatest possible. I'm just going to go in with an outline in pencil, and after I've done it in pencil, make sure that it's all spelt correctly and make sure that it all fits on. That's when I'm then going to go over it in a black pen. Okay, once you've written on your writing in your pen, that was a really bad way of showing you. On Stone G's artwork, sometimes he goes back in with colour after he's finished his work, as you can see on here. So you could go back in with whatever coloured pencils you used last week and just deepen up some of those colours in certain areas. Just make sure that you don't go over your actual sketch and get rid of any of that tonal drawing that you have done. As I said, after you've gone in with your black pen, you can then go back in with your coloured pencil to make your background slightly brighter. You've finished all your tonal drawing and your font and make your background brighter, you are finished. So please send me a final picture of your final piece. If you wanted to be quite professional about it, you could sign your name at the bottom. So you could put a little signature down in the bottom for me. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did enjoy this project, then please let me know. I think you should be able to get some really beautiful pieces of art out of this. Next week we will be trying something new. If you didn't manage to get on to doing the tonal stuff last week or your outline, make sure you do your outline first. So rewatch last week's video in order to go on to that now.